I'm Tom Malogany for Out of Spec Reviews. I'm subbing in for Kyle today, who couldn't make it here to New Jersey for the Volvo XC Recharge First Drive. Hope I don't disappoint you guys. There'll be no track swirling today like Kyle usually does. I'm going to do a brief introduction, walk around video, show you some of the features of the inside, get you introduced to the first all-electric offering by Volvo. Now, before you say, hey, what about the Polestar 2? So that's a Polestar, and while it is all-electric, it's a sub-brand for Volvo. This is the first all-electric proper Volvo. So let's see if they did it properly. The Volvo XC40 Recharge has a starting MSRP of $54,985. Now, that's considerably expensive for a subcompact SUV. Now, this isn't as big as, say, a Tesla Model Y, a Mustang Mach-E, a Volkswagen ID.4, some of the vehicles that we think it's going to compete against. It's more of the size of, say, a Range Rover Evoque or a Jaguar E-Pace compact crossover. It's tough for me to, on the surface, take a look at this and say, wow, that's a $55,000 car without even adding any options. I'm sure it's going to get pushed up over $60,000. Now, just took it out for a quick spin and it drove really well. Regenerative braking system worked very well on it, but that price, I can't help but look at that and say, even with the incentives, this is going to be a tough sell for an electric vehicle with a 208-mile range. Most of its, all of its competitors actually can drive further than that. So I think Volvo is going to have a little bit of a tough time with this because of the value proposition. That said, it's a very comfortable car. It's more premium than the other cars. I think that's where they're going to have to get their buyers from, people returning Volvos that are loyal to the brand, like Volvos, so they just want to get another Volvo. This is in the showroom. It's the new shiny new object. As long as they know that the range is going to be around 200 miles in the winter, as it is right now, it's going to be less than that. And there's another thing to consider. This has a 78 kilowatt hour battery. 75 of those kilowatt hours is usable. Very rarely do we see EVs use such a high percentage of the total battery capacity. Now, Tesla does it, but Tesla's the only manufacturer that does that. So what Tesla then does is say, well, you shouldn't really charge this car past 90%, only on occasion when you're going on very long drives. So I looked through the settings of this vehicle. When I came to the charging area, there's a little note in there that says, we don't recommend charging more than 90%. So now that 208-mile EPA range rating might start looking more like 185 miles or so. And in colder temperatures like this, you're on the highway driving fast, this might be a 150-mile usable electric vehicle in the winter. Tough pill to swallow for a $55,000 to $60,000 vehicle, even when you factor in the incentives. There is a storage compartment up front, a Frunk. It's not that big. Pretty wide, but it's only about in the deepest part in the back, maybe 7 or 8 inches deep. In the front, it's only about 4 inches deep. You can remove this piece here, and underneath, I'm not sure if you can see it in the video, there's the jack and an air compressor. No room really for anything else under there. The front would be just fine for, say, your portable charging cable, maybe some extension cords, and just very small items. You couldn't put any type of groceries or anything in here. It's not nearly deep enough. Let's take a quick look inside now. Typical Volvo. Doesn't look any crazy or funky because it's an electric Volvo. They wanted to make it look very familiar for their existing customers. There's a 13.2-inch driver's display and a 9-inch center stack that has the same 4-tile system that Volvo owners are used to. Now, this is the first Volvo to have Android operating system. So you can add apps. It uses Google Maps for navigation. I tried it out. It actually works really well. You can say, hey, hey Google, find charging stations, and it brings up a whole list of them. If you are actually setting a navigation destination that is further than the car's range, the Google Maps will suggest charging stations along the way, and it'll also tell you about how long you'll have to stay there to charge. Very useful feature. There's 2 cup holders. There's a wireless charging pad. There's a deep center console that holds a good amount of storage. And an interesting, this thing here is a garbage container, and it's removable, so you could fill it up with your trash, pull it out, and then just dump it out. You don't have to dig in there. Probably make it easier to clean. The seats also have the ability to pull this last section out and extend, which is useful. There are some deep door pockets. They extend the whole, pretty much the whole length of the door, and they're deep. You could put laptop or something in there without a problem, and those things are going to hold a lot of storage. So for a small car, it actually has a good amount of storage. There's also small side pockets here on the driver's side, so you could put something in there, maybe drop your phone if you're not charging it. Actually, a phone might fall out, but pens or something like that. Volvo made the most use out of a small space, because again, this is not a large car. This is a subcompact SUV. It's, you know, definitely not a big vehicle. It's tall, but it's not long. Take a look in the back. Pretty good legroom, again, for a vehicle in this class. Lots of ceiling height. Now, I'm not tall, I'm only 5'8", but I sat in it and I have a tremendous amount of headroom. Come around to the charge port. There it is, CCS. As you can imagine, we almost don't have to say that anymore, because now with Nissan switching over to the combined charging system for the Aria, it's pretty much fait accompli. All cars that aren't Tesla are going to be coming with CCS charging. Come around to the back. Let's pop the hatch, automatic opening hatch. Large cargo area. One thing you will notice is that there was no intrusion on the storage or driving compartment by the batteries. Volvo was able to package this vehicle and not lose any storage space, you know, which happens quite often when vehicles share a platform for electric cars, plug-in hybrids, and also internal combustion. The CMA platform that's used in this vehicle was designed from the beginning to accommodate full battery electrics, and it was designed so that the batteries would not intrude into the passenger or storage space. There's a little bit of a extra storage space down here underneath. It's not deep at all, but just enough to try to hold. That's your portable charging cable and jack over here. It also has a 60/40 split rear seat with a pass-through compartment. You fold that down. I'm not going to push it, but you could pop that forward if you had long, you know, a piece of wood or skis or something that you needed to transport. You could put them in there. Okay, so there isn't a little cubby on the side here like the driver gets. That's one of the things I was interested in seeing, but everything else is basically the same. The center display is showing now that we're at 75%. I actually have it on the charge screen now. We'll take a quick look at that. So you can set the maximum amount of current, which says 32 amps at this point. I tried to make it go higher, but I couldn't, and the car's supposed to be able to accept 40 amps. I don't know if this is a pre-production or for some reason they have it set at that, but it wouldn't let me put it higher than 32 amps. Now you'll notice down here, 90% is recommended to preserve the battery. Like Tesla, Volvo is recommending its owners only charge to 90% for daily driving. Now, it's not a huge problem for Tesla because the cars have such great range, But in a car that only has a 208 mile EPA rated range at 100%, that's going to be a little bit of a problem for many owners. I suspect most XC40 Recharge owners are going to ignore that, and they're going to just charge to 100%. They're probably going to lease the vehicle, so they're going to say, hey, at the end of the year, at the end of 3 years, I'm giving this thing back. If the battery is compromised, then it's compromised. Not great for the second owner, but I suspect that's probably going to happen quite often. Let's take a look at the center display infotainment system that's powered by Android. What you have here is kind of the main screen where you have your different apps that you can use. Now, these are going to be able to be configured. You're going to be able to add apps to it. So this is just how the car comes basically. Your Google Maps is up there on the top. Your phone gets synced with your contacts. The Google Maps, I notice, also works really well with the voice integration, as you might expect. For instance, I could say, hey Google, navigate to Fenway Park.
All right, Fenway Park, let's go.
Now you're going to notice we can't make it to Fenway Park on a single charge, so it's going to say add a charging stop. We need a charging stop. So let me tag that. It's going to recommend some of the places where we can stop to charge on the way, the battery percentage we would arrive at, and how long we would need to charge. Very useful feature there. Definitely like that. Camera over here shows an overhead view. If you touch the cameras in the front, you get to see the front view. You can do the same, let me see, with the back. The sides, you just get kind of an overhead view of the side, so I'm not sure that's that useful. But yeah, you get the 360-degree bird's eye view, which is definitely a useful feature. You've got your seat heaters right here, and you notice on this side a little picture of a steering wheel for the driver. You tab on that, you can turn on your heated steering wheel, something that I think is a must for electric vehicles in cold weather climates. We don't need that right now, even though it's cold out, I'm not driving. In the center here is where you'll adjust your heating and cooling. If you tab one, auto clicks on. Now you can also direct the air exactly where you want to, but then the auto is going to turn off when I do that. I can set the air to come by my feet, just go up on the windshield or to the driver. I mean, you could do multiple sections if you want, or just eliminate one section, and then this is where you'd control your fan speeds, the recirculations up front there, max defrost, rear defoggers. You can also have dual zones. You could set the heat for your passenger. Let me turn that off because it's going to get noisy. All right, let me go back to settings now. Okay, in driving, in the driver settings, you can turn on your lane keeping aid, one pedal driving, which I found to be very useful. When I turned that off, it almost felt like there was almost no regenerative braking. I think Volvo could make a little bit of a happy medium and maybe dial it up a little bit. I think they're trying too hard to simulate a gas car that doesn't have any type of regenerative braking. Let me turn that back on for the next person that's going to drive this. You could turn on your road sign information, the steering firm. I felt that it felt nice and sporty. It didn't feel too firm, but this is a luxury car. This isn't a sports car. Haven't been able to try off road mode. I only had the vehicle for 2 hours. I would have loved to take it off-road, but not sure Volvo would have loved that. Next up is charging. You can see here we're 74% charged right now. Okay, sound. Okay, you get to have your seat optimization. You can have the sound in the rear, in the front. Everybody can get it. You can set your surround sound, play with your treble and your bass. Connectivity, that's where you'll have your you'll connect your phones to Bluetooth. Controls, the wiper service position, you put that on so that you can it'll lift up so you can change them because the wipers are kind of tucked under the front of the hood. Do you want your exterior mirrors to tilt on reverse? I like it. I have it set that way. Auto dimming mirror, I think everybody likes that. The visual unlock and lock feedback, and the sound feedback for the locking. I'll be honest with you, I haven't really figured out what that is yet, but I'm sure it serves a purpose. Do you lock all the unlock all the doors or just the one that you're at. Displays the trip information. We have trip information here on the center stack. Not center stack, on the driver's display. That shows the efficiency. And Volvo has it in, instead of how many miles per kilowatt hour, they display how many kilowatt hours per 100 miles driven. Now that's very common in Europe. They typically refer to the efficiency not in miles per kilowatt hour as much as they do kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. I've never really seen anybody use kilowatt hours per 100 miles in OEM, but Volvo is doing that here, and numbers haven't been great so far, but we'll talk about that later. Okay, so the lights, you can set your lights. Right here is where you power off the vehicle. There's no key, there's no start button. Well, there's a key, but there's no start button. And I was a little confused before about when I'm sitting in here and you turn it on by putting it in gear and then it turns on, and I couldn't figure out how to turn it off. But this is where you turn it off under the controls section. Apps, you can add apps, show all apps, look at the permissions you're given each app. Then we have profiles. You could set different user profiles. Google here, you have the manage your activity controls. Basically, the things that you use on your smart device that has Android operating system. You have it here in the car. System, basic stuff, language, date and time, system update, reset options. This might be where we have over-the-air updates where you approve. I'm not sure. The Volvo XC40 Recharge will have over-the-air updates, and I'm sure you'll be able to do it through an app, but I'm probably through the car also. I know with my Tesla, you have to approve the over-the-air update or schedule it for a later time. I'm sure Volvo will have something like that, and this will be the first Volvo to have over-the-air updates, as it's the first all-electric Volvo and the first Volvo to integrate the Android operating system in the vehicle.